How's it going? Welcome to our first video of the video series that will be the songwriting workshop this semester. As you know, we're going to be meeting in groups and we're going to be using that time to talk about and listen to music, and we're going to be using this particular part of the experience to do the lecture part of it. So you won't be getting a lecture from me in person all through a class. This is how we'll be doing the lecture. So the first lecture today, well, what's the most important part of a song? Okay, so we've established already that a song is words and music, and we sort of made that rule a little bit early on, and I know some folks probably don't like that rule very much. There's usually somebody that says, well, I can write a song without lyrics. I mean, that's restriction, that's not correct. And I'm like, well, okay. For this class, however, this is the restriction I'm going to go with because it's not composition, this is songwriting. So let's just say, for sake of argument, and for this class for the entire semester, that a song is words and music. So what's the most important of any song? It's a good question because you can talk about this. We could probably have an entire semester just on this subject alone. What is the most important part of a song? So let's think of a few things that we might put on that list. The title, is that the most important part of a song? Sometimes the title is the chorus of a song, and so yeah, sometimes a title like Good Lovin', that's a great song. Good Lovin', that's also the chorus of the song, so you could probably say that Good Lovin' is the most important part of Good Lovin', the song. Melody, the melody of it, I would say that is a good contender, because what is it that you are going to be humming or whistling if you're remembering the song, for instance? Someone plays you a song and they say, okay, what's that song? And you would sort of have to sing it back somehow. And then the thing that you would remember would be the melody. So yeah, you could probably say that's the most important part of a song. I could definitely make that case. Because you could have really whack lyrics and put that with a decent melody, and someone's probably going to be pretty happy about it. In fact, that's a hit single. So we're good. So the most important part of a song is the chorus. You can sure make that point. And as we mentioned earlier with the title, the thing that everybody remembers, the thing that is the takeaway, the chorus certainly is an extremely important part of a song. If it's a great chorus, you'll remember it. I guess that's a mark of a great song. I guess we're going to be talking about what a great song is, okay? We're sort of just pushing it out here a little bit. Is it the rhythm of the song? A lot of people could really make that case, especially if you're dealing with songs that are based on loops, EDM, drum beats. There are entire songs that the most important part of them certainly is the drum beat. The 808 or John Bonham, playing with Led Zeppelin, because you can make a very good case that that's the most important part of any Led Zeppelin song is the drummer. The style of the song, is that the most important part of a song? I can make a good case for any of these, but for the sake of our first day here talking about songs, I'm going to go with lyrics. I don't know about you, but when there's music playing, let's say there's just some music playing out there, and if it's just music, I can kind of tune it out and could have put it in the background and I can get on with my day. But the moment someone starts singing, the minute I'm getting a human voice going, there's some kind of animal little thing in my brain that goes, hey, somebody is singing something. Let's pay attention because there's singing happening. So if I'm reading something and there's a lyric comes on, I can't read anything. I'm going to go right to the lyric because that's the most important thing. We can't help but pay attention to a vocal. If it's not loud enough in the mix, we're going, hey, where's that vocal? If it's too loud in the mix, a lot of times we're okay. It's like, hey, it'd be nice if the band turned up, but you're not saying turn down the vocals. We can't help but pay attention to whatever is being sung. So let's make whatever's being sung something we want to understand, something that we want to communicate. What is so important that this person is singing about it? Lyrics, to me, that's direct information that we understand. Musical information is a whole other kind of information, and we can talk about that another time because that's, I think, more subconscious. It's the symbiosis of a lyric and a melody that makes the magic happen. As far as I'm concerned, you can just have a really fine lyric and put a melody to it, and it's a cappella. You don't have to have any music to it. You can accompany it, you can put a beat to it, you can put whatever you want to it. But if you can go into the shower and hear that music in your head and sing and remember the words and the melody at the same time, then there's something good about that. So don't take that for granted. If we're going to talk about lyrics, and we're going to talk about lyrics being the most important thing, well, what kind of lyrics are we talking about? Because there's all kinds of lyrics. So let's sort of go through a list of some possible different kinds of lyrics, because you might actually be sitting down and going, well, I don't really know what kind of lyrics I'm going to write. I'm not a lyric person. I'm more of a music person, or I'm not even that. I just like the idea of songs. Maybe maybe the lyrics are not something that comes natural to you. Some folks in this class I know are already word people. And I actually try to make sure that each group has an avowed word person in it. And some of you may actually be word people and you don't even know it yet. And we're going to try to find that out in this course. So let's talk about what kind of lyrics are possible out there. Well, first of all, there's the love song. Let's face it, what's so important that you got to sing about it? The news of the day, hey, I just stubbed my toe, hey, I had a nice breakfast. That's not necessarily a great lyric thing, but if you're talking about something that you feel about for your loved one, for your beloved, that's something you can really get behind. I mean, that's something you can sing about and just it comes from your chest and you feel something for that. The fundamental songs of songwriting or love songs. That's why there's millions and billions of them. We can always go back to them because, let's face it, love is one of the most important things and it's worth singing about. It's also been sung about in a lot of different ways, and maybe you don't feel like you need to write a song about love right now in your life, and that's cool, so don't worry about it. Story songs. I love story songs. Like a great song would be like Poncho and Lefty by Townes Van Zandt. And Willie Nelson covered it. I think Waylon Jennings covered it. It's sort of a classic country song. And it's not even a story that you're not exactly sure what's going on, but you know there's something happening. There's motion to it. There's emotion to it. But a good story song, you can have each verse sort of have a different level of the story. Another great song that's a great story song was to be the Night the Lights Went Out in Georgia. That's a good story song because that's got that nasty little twist at the end. You've heard story songs, rap songs. So many rap songs are story songs. Eminem, of course, wrote lots of story songs. So that's always a great thing to sort of start with for a fundamental place to write a lyric is like, well, write a story. Have it go from point A to point B and have the chorus, maybe, if you're going to use a chorus, be something that sort of ties it all together. Okay, another kind of lyric to think about. Action songs, a song that is about doing something, a song about running, a song about singing, a song about loving, a song that describes what you're into doing at that time. Then emotion songs, songs about certain emotions, how you feel, sadness, honesty, jealousy. You can just sort of pick an emotion and sort of get into the meat of it and sort of talk about that emotion because that's something that always relates to people. And it's also something that you can get into and sort of find something in yourself that you need to work on. Well, then of course there's party songs, a song about just going out and having a good time, like Celebration. Celebrate good times, come on. That's always going to be something that if you're in a bad mood to sit down and just write about having a great party, that might lift your spirits. And then if you turn into a great track, you'll lift other people's spirits too. Another kind of song that's kind of fun is the bragging or attitude songs. And this is of course a lot that you'll see in the world of hip hop, talking about how badass you are. I'm not going to sort of get into the list of how the badass things that people can do. You can sort of fill in the blanks there. So bragging songs, that's always fun to get into. You can sort of invent a persona. Maybe there's an intense version of yourself that you can sort of create, have bragging rights and make an attitude about yourself. All fun. There's the plea for help. There's the song that's basically saying, I'm in trouble, I'm not happy, just a song that really gets down to the bottom of the well and sort of cries out to people. That's always something that's worth singing about. People can really relate to that. People are always in need of help for something. Why not start a beef? Pick somebody you don't like or somebody you do like and just sort of get together and say, hey, let's start a beef or something. I'm going to say some stuff about you, you say some stuff about me, and we'll get this thing going like we hate each other in the media. What do you say? Start a beef. Beef songs are fun because, again, it's kind of like the bragging songs. It's kind of fun to invent this persona and sort of be kind of a douchebag for a little while. It can be cool. Then, of course, there's the novelty or comedy songs. This is a dangerous thing to do, and we'll talk about this later. I know people in the music business that have written songs that were novelty and comedy songs, and then they had to live up to those songs. We'll talk about that later. Yeah, but comedy songs, that's always fun to listen to those. Always room for another Weird Al tune, I think. And then there's nonsense lyrics. You could also just not worry about the lyrics and what they mean, and just go for lyrics that sound pretty cool, words that sound kind of good together, and just make up some weird lyrics. Another trick that a lot of people I know well, I shouldn't say a lot of people, but certainly some people, one of the things they'll do is they'll go ahead and write lyrics. David Bowie did this. Write a bunch of words and lyrics out on, they'll type it out and then they'll cut up the words, put them in a hat, throw them on the ground, see what happens. Put together the words. It's like those fridge things. Maybe some of you grew up with a little fridge poem kind of things. Those are actually pretty cool for writing lyrics, believe it or not. You put some of those things together and you might get a cool idea. I don't know, what do you got? You got a poem, you got a news report. What do you want to do? So there's all kinds of possibilities for starting a lyric idea. So let's say you're thinking, okay, well, I want to write a song today. I feel like I want to write a song. You've picked one of the things from that list of what kind of a song you want to write. How do you get started? How do you get something moving on it? Well, let me tell you how I like to do it, or at least one of the ways I like to do it. A lot of times I'll just sit down and I'll draw a CD cover, and I'll go 1 through 10 or 1 through 12 or something. And I might even draw a funny little picture on this CD cover. And then I'm going to sort of write down sort of what I would think would look like a really cool bunch of titles. The kind of titles that if I looked at this CD, if I picked the CD up and looked at it, I'd go, wow, those look like some pretty cool songs. I just sort of will sit there and sort of think of some neat phrases or just one word things or two word things, some descriptive things, just kind of stuff like that. Things that are like titly that would look really cool on a CD. Make you want to hear what this song's about. Because a lot of times these titles can either generate a chorus, they sort of sound good and they have a good way of coming out of your mouth, so to speak. They could turn into a great chorus. Or sometimes just that image generates a bunch of other images that then get you thinking about stuff and you start wanting to write a song. Pick one of those titles and either use it as a chorus or use that as the impetus to create a good chorus. So how do you write a chorus? Come up with a good line that sings well, that has something kind of descriptive and emotive in it. And then find a line that sort of either complements it or contrasts that, something that sort of is a yin or to that yang, or even continues that idea a little bit further. See if you can just find 2 lines is all you need for a chorus. Sometimes you even have a second line, repeat the first line, and then have another line for the 4th line that rhymes with the second line. I mean, that's kind of, a blunt object way of doing it, but you get the idea. You can sort of create a chorus that sort of has a rhythm and a singability and a sensibility unto itself, that all of a sudden you can go, okay, I think I might have a chorus. You don't even have to have chords yet. You can just sort of be, again, lyric phrasing, lyric rhythm, and just sort of get a feel for that. The criteria for me for a chorus, as opposed to, say, a verse or something else, is it's something that the rest of the song can point to. A chorus is something that also bears repeating, and it sounds good repeated. That's kind of my criteria for a chorus. Other people have different opinions about that, but that's not a bad starting point. It's something that bears repeating, something that is the memorable thing that people would take forward more often than not from your song. So you get that going. Maybe you've got that 4 lines, that 2 lines with a great title. Start thinking about, well, what's going to set that chorus up? What's the storyline that sort of goes blah, 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 then the chorus. La di da di da di da, then the chorus. Is it something that leads to it? Is it something that contrasts to it? So anyways, how do you find that verse? Well, the best way to find that verse usually is to just find that first line. That first line of the verse. It's just like, what's a great sort of entry line? I realize that's one of the hardest things to write ever. You're always writing the first paragraph of a report, the first line of anything that you've got to do. That's a tough one. But at the same time, if you can get a little bit of practice at doing that and get a knack for it, that first line, just think of something that just seems like the most natural thing to do. Something that just starts the first stepping stone that then leads to the next one, that leads to the next one, to the next one, that gets you to the chorus. The best way to sort of figure that out is look at some of your favorite songs. What's the first line of your favorite songs? A lot of times those give you a lot of good ideas about how you can approach doing this. Here's something that happens to me a lot. All right, so I'll actually get to this process where I'll write a first verse, and then I'll realize that's not really the first verse, it's actually the second verse. And how do you know that? Well, you don't know that, but sometimes you just know that because you realize, well, I didn't really set the table right for the first time, but this is really good. It's what I need, but it doesn't quite start it right. A lot of times I'll just switch that first verse I thought I wrote, stick it over in second verse mode, and go and start that first verse. You just move things around as you need to. Don't feel like you've got to be stuck with how you thought about it the first time. Be flexible. A lot of times you'll come up with a verse and a chorus. Maybe that second verse or that first verse is easier to write once you've got the other verse. And sometimes that's all you need is a couple of verses and a chorus. You can start writing the song. A lot of times I don't really write anything else but a verse and a chorus before I get into any other stuff. And then I'll start working on maybe the music or some other parts of it. And then sometimes, though, I'll look at my lyrics and go, these lyrics need some more. I've got this verse where I've set up my chorus situation. I've got a chorus that bears repeating, but then I need a departure from that. So a bridge, a lot of times, is the perfect thing to do. And sometimes you want your lyric to sort of take you away from the song or just offer us another perspective on the subject of the song. When you come back to that chorus, it's a payoff. You get a real payoff from that. And it also adds another level and a layer to the meaning of the lyrics. So it's just something to think about. It's really easy to get caught up on worrying about rhymes. And I'm just here to tell you, if you start thinking that you're spending too much time worrying about the rhymes, stop rhyming. You don't have to force it. There's no rule saying you have to rhyme. If it sounds cool, do it. Don't get hung up on the rhyme situation. What's quality lyrics? I know what I like for quality lyrics. I think Bob Dylan's a great lyric writer. I could tell you more about my taste in things, but I'm not particularly interested in that. I'm more interested in your taste in great lyrics. And what do you think are great lyrics? Because I kind of think I know what I think great lyrics are. What I'd really like you to do is, once you've thought of that, I want you to go ahead and post a link of that as a thread to this video so we can sort of compare some of the things that you consider to be great lyrics. And just put up the PDF if you don't mind. Just go ahead and go to Google, go ahead and get a lyric, cut and paste it, put it into a Word doc, and put it up. What do you consider to be a great lyric? Are these lyrics universal? Is there something about this that everybody can relate to? Everybody just sort of goes and recognizes themselves in the words. Is this lyrics specific to what you're going through in your life? Is it your song? This song mirrors my feelings. That's happening. Does that make it a great lyric? Here's another question. Are these lyrics presented melodically, sung, or are they more like speech or like rapping? How do you like your lyrics? Do you like them sung or like them rapped? Are lyrics better if they're spoken rather than sung? Does singing put a restriction on lyrics? Do you think that complicated lyrics are better than simple lyrics? Is that something that makes a lyric great rather than less great? Is rhyming an important part of a great lyric? Does it have to rhyme? Does it have to be great rhyme work? Can it be a great song and not have a lot of rhyme work? Here's a question, though, that I always have to ask. Should the lyrics stand up separately from the music? In other words, should you be able to read the lyrics and go, wow, that's poetry, and then hear the song and go, wow, that's awesome, but the lyrics can stand alone? They don't have to have the music? Well, that's kind of an interesting question because to me, more often than not, there's a lot of great lyrics that look great on the page, but a great lyric to me is wrapped in a great melody. They are one and the same. There's a symbiosis to that. What I'd really like for you to do is to go ahead again and get those lyrics. Show me an example of what you consider to be great lyrics, and let's share them and look at them as a class, and we can sort of see where we all stand with lyrics. I'm going to do the same. I'm going to put up some lyrics that I consider to be great as well. Let's look at 3 different approaches to songwriting where the lyrics are involved. So the first one we're going to look at is the idea of writing the lyrics first and writing the music second. Okay, a lot of folks do this. It was a real popular method for blues. Obviously, the blues people write out the blues, what they're going to do. The blues, the music itself is already fairly understood. A lot of pop music, they write the lyrics first. They just go ahead and marry the musical style of the day to that lyric. Lots of successful songs have been written with the lyrics first. Bob Dylan always writes the lyrics first. Elton John writes with Bernie Taupin. And the way that they write is that Bernie Taupin writes lyrics by himself, doesn't have any melodies to him, just sends poetry, if you will, sheets of words to Elton. Elton puts them on the piano and he plays, and that's how they write songs. And they never are in the room together. Joni Mitchell writes her lyrics first and then writes music to it. Mostly, a lot of classic songwriters do it that way. especially if they're really known for their lyrics. If their lyrics, Paul Simon, I'm pretty sure writes his lyrics first. Once you've written the lyrics first, then all of a sudden that sets the rhythm and the cadence for what the music's got to be. So now the music really has to fit that lyric rhythm. That locks the music into something. That's not a bad thing. I'm just saying, though, that if you're going to write music to lyrics, there is a restriction there you have to sort of take into consideration. Since lyrics are usually written with rhythm and meter and rhyme, this gives the music writer a lot to work with. It gives them a really good foundation. If you have a really good lyrical line, it's not that hard to find a good melody to match that. You just have to take a little time. You can just sort of spend it, work a couple of different melodies and try to get some shape to it, see what sounds good for those words. Once you've figured out that melody, then you can suss out what the chords are. Or you could actually just do it the other way first. Do what Elton does. Just put the words up on the page and start playing. And play along with that and start singing the lyrics from the page, whatever comes out of his mouth, and just comes naturally. That's not a bad way to do it. It works for people. Also, if there's lyrical repetition, musical repetition can go with that. And one of the things we do know about songwriting is that repetition is not a bad thing to do. And let me say that one more time. Repetition is not a bad thing to do because it does get people to be able to remember it. A lot of times, I have to be honest with you, this is how I write songs. There's the music first and the lyrics second. In fact, lots of people do it this way. I know U2 does it this way. And sometimes they even wait to the very last minute to write the lyrics right before they're supposed to record the vocals on the record. Anyways, music first, lyrics second. This is a more popular style for rock songs and jazz songs. Lots of songwriters and teams will just get together and they'll make this music first. The band will get together even and make music happen. And then it'll be like, okay, who's going to write some lyrics to this? The content of the music then inspires what the lyric could become. A lot of times when the music comes first, then the lyrics that are written to those musical phrases can have a little bit more of a fluid quality, but rather than the lyric being written to the words, which would generally be more dictated. So one of the things that we a lot of times will do with this is that we'll try a melody out. When we're trying the melody out, for instance, if I'm sitting here going, I've got this music here. I would sort of do something like that and just try some things like that, and then I'd go, ooh, that sounded pretty good. I would try it again, repeat it, try to remember it. And in doing that, I would try some different vowel sounds. I would just try some stuff out. Your brain starts bringing words in to fill those sounds up, and all of a sudden, you've sort of opened up a gateway into your own mind, and you're starting to write some lyrics again. The third way to do this would be the music and lyrics at the same time. Now, that sounds kind of crazy. Is that even possible? Can you come up with music and lyrics at the same time? And the answer is, of course you can. It's just a matter of how your approach is to doing this. Right now, in particular, in country and hip hop, I think this is where it's happening a lot of times because the writing is happening during the recording, and the collaborators are in the room together creating words and music simultaneously. A lot of times in hip hop, they'll get together, they'll get the beat going, and as the beat's being developed, then whoever writes the lyric is usually over on the side. Once that beat gets them into feeling this rhythm, then they'll go over and they'll come up with some flow, and then they'll start their tape. Something will come out that they can work on and develop into something better. So a lot of times you have collaboration where you have the people writing the song in the room with a track builder, somebody who's there with a computer, with software, with sounds, maybe even a drum machine, maybe even a sampler. And you'll have a team where they're working on the recording and the words and music are happening at the same time. And this is happening a lot in country music right now. This is kind of the predominant way of doing it in country, and a lot of pop records are being done this way as well, where the people who are writing the songs are there with a track builder so that as they're coming up with the idea for the song, they're also able to hear a production of the song as it's happening, hear a rhythm that sort of corresponds to it, maybe a bass line. And a lot of times those tracks that they're working on end up becoming the basis for the tracks that make the record. That's kind of the way it's happening in both country and hip hop these days. And it's interesting because since there's a lot of collaboration going back and forth, you're not always sure who's the lyricist, who's the musicians. There's a real symbiosis to the process. And I know for myself personally, if I can get to a creative position where I can create the music and the lyrics simultaneously, that's a lot of times my best stuff comes out that way. If you can sort of create that environment, good for you. You should try to do that. But whatever way that you find works for you, either of these three ways, they're all valid, they're all good. Anything that gets you there. Let's talk a little bit about rhyming. Obviously, rhyming can be a really big component to songwriting. It's a huge component to hip hop, and there's a great deal of respect for the people that can create amazing worlds of internal and external rhymes to the lines. It's that kind of wordplay that sort of stimulates and makes people get pretty excited about lyrics. Why did rhyme even happen in the first place? And it's kind of cool for those of you who are students of music history. I'm sure everybody here is. Some of you probably know that the reason why we had rhyme back in the day was because the balladeers that would go from town to town doing the troubadours and performing, a lot of times they were also the people giving you the news of the day from other places. And what better way to remember these long songs than to put rhymes in there? Because if you're a singer, you already know this. That's a hugely important part for memorization. If you remember the first line, you're going to get the second line because your brain goes, oh, this rhymes with that, this rhymes with that. It helps you remember everything. Rhyme is a big part of that still today. I'm sure that's a huge part of what makes a hip hop artist able to remember a lot of the very, very long flows that they're spitting out. The thing that's cool about rhymes also is when you set up a rhyme scheme and you set up a rhyme, you can set up an expectation. When you put out a certain rhyme, you establish it, you put a line out there, and you can sort of almost set up what that word at the end is going to be, and someone's expecting, oh, you know that's going to be this word, and then you change the word and you go, oh! And that's always something that's fun to do. Sometimes it's okay to use the obvious rhyme. Sometimes moon and June are okay to use, you know. You want to sort of avoid the obvious rhyme, but sometimes you just got to use it. And so don't feel too weird about that. Don't always look for the weird rhyme all the time if you got a rhyme. And also, you know what? You can use a rhyming dictionary. There's no shame in using that. They're so useful. There's been so many times and I've been thinking I really need to rhyme this word, and I'm just not thinking of it when I'm just sitting there, you know, putting all the consonants in front of this Ari, Bari, Kari, Dari, Fari, Skari, Hari, you know, doing that. I don't know if you've ever done that, but I've done that. Get a rhyming dictionary. Make it easier for yourself. Lots of internal rhymes are always good. They always generate interest. It always helps make the flow happen, even with just regular pop songs. It's one of those things you don't notice it at first, but it's one of those things that adds a special cohesion to the song that subconsciously, and it's really a good trick for a great song is internal rhyming. So keep doing that. Also, don't get super hung up about your rhymes being perfect. As long as it sounds close, loose rhymes are almost better than perfect rhymes. Don't feel you've got to always have a perfect ending to the rhyme. It's all good. Nobody cares if it sounds close, and you can even bend the words a little bit. It's okay as long as it gets the point across and says what you want to say. As long as it doesn't sound too crazy, you know, I mean, you know it if it sounds good. And if you're not sure, run it against a friend of yours and play it for them. And if they look at you funny at that line, then out it goes. You don't even have to rhyme, okay? Reason why we do is because it sounds good and it helps us remember the words. That's really the most reason why we do it. Or it's the style of the music that we're working on. I would be very interested to hear hip hop without any rhyming. I put the challenge out there to somebody. Rhyming is extremely important to that genre. There's a lot of great pop music and rock music. Rock is actually a good place to not rhyme. There's lots of great not rhyming going on in rock. There ain't no rules. And if there were rules, we're here to break them. So all of you have to write a song very soon. And we're going to be doing this again in groups. So some of you have songs that are due at different times. You may notice from the syllabus. But still, for each of these times that you have a song due, you have 2 songs. So you're going to have to be working on 2 songs over the course of 2 weeks for these meetings. And I'd like for you to show up for each of these meetings with 2 songs that you've worked on. And you don't have to write them yourself. You can write them with other people. Also, you can just grab a beat off of YouTube and write some lyrics to it, or you can take a poem from a book of poetry and write music to it. But you must give credit where it's due. I want to know what you did and what you didn't do. I need to know what you're contributing to the songs. So here's some starting points that I'd like to suggest for you. Again, as I mentioned earlier, just sit down, come up with 10 cool song titles in 10 minutes. Don't think about it too much. Don't get too silly about it. Maybe, well, you can get a little bit silly, but again, do you want somebody to pick up this CD and look at it and go, oh, this is a comedy record? Maybe you do. That's cool. There's nothing wrong with that. But if you don't, think about this. Think about how these titles give people thoughts of what they might expect from these songs. Then see if one of them spurs some kind of an elaboration. So you see if that particular phrase or word spurs and creates a line, 2 lines. Have something that you say and have a response to it. Try to get this combination together until it sounds good. You might then have a chorus. Then try to see if you can find a melody to it. Rather than going try just put some shape on it. Try not to have a monotonic phrase and try to sing your line with some movement. Something that sounds kind of cool, because that kind of motion in a melody, that's what we call hook stuff. That's the stuff that sticks to your brain. This phrase that you're coming up with says something you want to say, then how would you set it up? What can you say that would then somehow be completed by that phrase? What would be your verse that would then be completed by this chorus? Maybe you've got a melody. See if you can't then find a chord progression that works and holds this whole idea together. Now that's one way you could do it. You could also do it the other way. You could start at the bottom of this list here, come up with a cool chord progression, and then come up with a melody line that sounds kind of cool over that. Then see if you can come up with some vowels that sound good with that melody. Then see if you can come up with some words that sound good with a vowel, and then write some lyrics. And then maybe you have a verse, and then you write the chorus. Or you have the chorus, you write the verse. Anyways, starting points get you started, and then you can sort of find your way to the end, which is basically a finished song. It could be anywhere from, 30 seconds, 5 minutes. A finished song can be just have a verse and a chorus. A finished song just has to have the sense that there's an idea that has been expressed and has a beginning and a conclusion and doesn't leave me hanging. Makes me sort of go, okay, there's a completeness to this and I understand it, and that's what I'm looking for from your song. We're going to get into this a little bit more because I have a few more videos for you before your first songs are due. Just start thinking about lyrics here, and again, what I'd love for all of you to do is to select what you consider to be a great lyric and go ahead and get it into a Word doc or a PDF and post it underneath this video, and so we can just all sort of get a good look at it. And if you want to, you can also include a link to the music on YouTube so we can also hear this lyric in action. But I think we would all like to sort of see the lyric first and sort of see what's going on with it. So by now you should know who's in your group with you, and I'd like you to go ahead and take time, if you have it, to reach out and get to know the people in your group a little bit. Feel free to collaborate with anybody in there. Feel free to collaborate with anybody in the class or outside of the class, especially for your first songs. Now, as we get further on into the semester, I'd kind of like you to keep it with our cohort, but just to get started with it, you got some songs that you've been writing with some other people, your roommate, your friends, bring them in. It'd be great to hear them. Your first 2 songs are due September 14th for Group A, September 17th for Group B, September 21st for Group C, and September 24th for Group D. If you don't like Group A, Group B, Group C, Group D, feel free to come up with a better name for your group. I'd love for you to do that if you want to have a nice team name, or just come up with something else. But until then, it's going to be A, B, and C, and D. Hopefully this gets you thinking about some lyrics and how you can maybe start working on some lyrics and how to approach some lyrics. We're going to actually be getting into lyrics more over the course of the semester, since it is such an important element to songwriting. I'm going to be sharing some more lyrics with you of, again, what I consider to be great lyric writing. I'm looking forward for you to share with me what you consider to be great lyric writing, because I like to be turned on to new stuff that I haven't heard before. And maybe I have heard it before, but still, I'd like to know what you consider to be good, because I'm pretty sure we all know that there is quality and then there's less quality, and then there's higher quality. And I think as a class, we can sort of come up with what we consider to be those levels of quality, and then we can sort of share how to make songs rise in quality over time. All right, that's enough for the songwriting workshop. Professor Ross Rice signing off. Talk to you soon.